qualifying 150 yards. This is a special pair, and it's a Hattons full of grace. And it's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a...
So, hello and welcome back to the Champ.ie Podcast, Mr. Groome, a new look studio. Champ headquarters is here, and this is just, of course, an appetizer to, we're just going to launch 45 shows for the National Hunt season, kicking off the official campaign. Ronan will launch on the 3rd of November, and we will be back, of course, this week to look ahead to Cheltenham. The Charity Hall Chase as well is not too far away, but the official launch will be on the 3rd of November. Ronan Groome, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Basil. I hope you're well. I'm very much looking forward to the jump season. Cheltenham, as you say, just around the corner. I think that really does launch us into the season. Once you see them jumping around the Cotswolds, you really are into the jump season then. So looking forward to it, yeah, very much so. Absolutely,
and we hope to get to Tri-Town Day. I think that's the first day myself and yourself will be on the race course. I'm not sure it is on the calendar, but Tri-Town Day in Navan, your old haunts. And just a bit of housekeeping for Champ.ie listeners. Every single episode, we're going to have a big question on screen. You can see it here. And Mr. Ronan Groome, because you lost the road to Cheltenham Challenge last year, you're going to put up some hard-earned cash out of your own back pockets. A free bet set for the most compelling case down below in the comments for the dark horse for the jump season to follow.
Yeah. Give us, as I said, I'll forfeit the €20, and not big bucks here, but let's hear your horse to follow for the season. We don't need an essay here. Just a quick few sentences, maybe under 100 words. Why you, what a horse you're going to back for Cheltenham, or maybe not even Cheltenham. Maybe something else. Maybe a Grand National horse or a King George horse or some horse that's worth following. Give it to us, and we'll pick out the best one from the comments, and we'll announce the winner in the due process. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, the winner will be announced, Ronan, on the first episode of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge, the new series. You can see it down below. Some breaking news. The Groom has agreed for a rematch. So the first of those 20 episodes will come on the 31st of October, just before the Down Royal Festival. And of course, then that Thursday, we start our official campaign with the build up to the Down Royal Festival and so forth. So that's it, Ronan Groome. We'll crack on. This is a fire hose for Champ.ie listeners. 20 jumpers to follow, 10 from myself, 10 from you, and we're going to go in order of grade 1 stars, young prospects, novice chasers, and handicappers to follow, along with maybe the odd boneless ball at the end for myself and yourself if we're feeling generous. So the first, we're going to hand it over to you. We're going to look at the grade 1 stars for the season, be it chasing, hurdles, bumpers. I know you love a good bumper, but that's for the young prospects. But tell us, grade 1 stars, who will you be? Whose camp are you in this season, Mr. Groome?
Yeah, well, look, we'll start off with the 2 mile chase division. I think the springer here could be Gentleman to me. He's the one I'm most interested in coming through from the novice. This is last season. Look, he was interesting horse towards he's always been kind of well hyped since he's come over from France. He started off over fences last season at Punchestown. He was no match for Fernie Hollow there, and then he was second to Hawthorne Callure at Leopardstown. And he was kind of just brought along gently. Then he went to Turles, went to the grade 3 at Navan, and then, Willie kind of decided to miss Cheltenham with him and bring him over to Aintree fresh. And he beat Edward Stone there, the Arkle winner, fair and square. And look, it's all you're reading into Gentleman to me is whether Edward Stone was ready to roll or was at his 100% best that day. And Alan King, his trainer, seems to think he was. And if he was, then Gentleman in my book is the best novice around. I think he's a bit of a head case. I saw Patrick Mullins referring to him as a kind of undersold kind of type of horse. So, it's a unique kind of discipline, the 2 mile chaser. So to harness that kind of energy he has and do it like they did with undersold, he's going to take a huge role in the division this season. And I think he can back him around 14s. For the champion chase. I don't think that's the worst investment to take now. I'll be looking forward to seeing where he goes. Possibly the Hilly Way, possibly over to Sandown, possibly Leopardstown at Christmas. Lots of options there from, but looking forward to see where he ends up.
Super. And your second?
Yeah, we go on to Brandy Love, another Mullins horse. I'm not sure, does she go chasing or does she stay over hurdles? But look, anyone who watched her races last season, and I was very close to putting up your mare that you like, Allegory Devassi. She beat her at Fairyhouse.
Allegory Devassi.
Allegory Devassi. Yeah, Brandy Love beat her there, but she was jumping like way out on both occasions, way out to her left. And the scope for her when she goes left-handed, possibly at Cheltenham in March and other places along the way, the scope to her to improve past her rating of 145, which is a fair rating for a mare anyway. I think she can get another £10 if she goes left-handed the way she was jumping last season. She beat Love Envoy, obviously, who was the Mayor's Novice Hurdle winner at Cheltenham. She beat her 8 lengths despite like jumping markedly out to her left the whole way around there, and even more so in the straight. I thought she was really, really impressive. Don't know, as I say, whether she goes novice chasing, but if she did, she'd be very interesting that way. But I think I'd rather her go for stay over hurdles, 2.5 miles Cheltenham, and I think she could be very tough to beat come March in the Mayor's Hurdle.
Yeah, I'll throw one into the mix, Mr. Groome, because we'll keep it flowing nicely. Throw one into the mix. Statler, lightly raced. This lad really won me over in the National Hunt Chase last year at Cheltenham. And the one horse that took out at Cheltenham was probably Statler with a view to stay in chases, grade ones this season. Lightly raced 7-year-old run. He's only had 3 starts over fences, 3 from 3. Jumps really well. He started off at the minute, well, not the minimum, but 2.5 miles. And you're kind of thinking, could he? This lad has the pace and ability to line up in a Turners. But I think the further he went in that National Hunt Chase, I mean, he beat a good solid yardstick and Run Wild Fred's 158 or 9 rated chaser going into that. Ears pricked at the line. He never came off the bridle, this Statler. Big leggy sort. I think he's going to be a real. Like obviously Willie has, your Gallop and the Champs, your Alahos. This fella's going to go in under the radar this season, and I would be very shocked if he doesn't land a grade 1 this season. And a bit of a price as well for a Gold Cup. Is there 16s available out there? He'd be my selection for those staying chases this season. I think there's a lot more to come from this son of Stowaway. For your last one into the mix.
Yeah, I like a big chaser as well. I'm a big Ahoy Senior fan. Anyone who's watching these last year will know that I was all over him. A lot of times he ran, and we were as well after he won at Newbury. I wonder would they go for the Ladbrokes Chase or Ladbrokes Trophy even off a mark of 161. I actually haven't heard anything from the Cinder Russell kind of camp of what they're going to do with him. But look, he's a 7-year-old turning 8, obviously in March. I thought he was a real work in progress as he moved through the gears last season. Wasn't put off at all by the beat by getting beaten by Braveman's Game at Kempton. I just don't think that was his track. I think he more or less proved that on his next start. He beat the Grand National winner, obviously, in the Towton Chase at Wetherby, and then only Long Press was too good for him at Cheltenham. Back at Aintree, where he won his grade 1 hurdle, he was really, really good. Now, maybe there was a few bomb outs there. Lahon Pressy could have been over the top. Braveman's Game, probably not at his best. And then in that case, then he's only really beaten Fury Road, who's decent yardstick, but mightn't be grade 1 class this season. So I do accept that, but I think he's a real scopy type of horse who could have a lot more to move into. He's only had the 6 starts over fences. He's only had 9 starts in his life. There's loads and loads of scope to progress there. So Ahoy Senior, I think, is going to be my chaser to follow.
Okay, yeah, to see you then, Bar was getting a bit of come on ahoy. Ronan Groome, Mr. Groome was absolutely belting out.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's but no, big season for him. I like him. But the Devils coach, man, I'm giving you a staying chaser. I'm going to give you a staying hurdler this season. I think this fella can really step up this season for Noel Meade. 4 wins from 6 starts over hurdles, yet to race over 3 miles. I love the form with Ashdale Bob. Obviously, Ashdale Bob the Devils coachman ran down Ashdale Bob at Navan. Ashdale Bob goes and finishes 3rd in the Coral Cup on bottomless ground. Just love that form. I think Ashdale Bob could be a really decent sort for staying trips, but I think the Devils coachman is even better. Full value for the win at Navan over 2.5 miles. The key to this horse, he wants it deep. So you'd be thinking, do they go Leopardstown at Christmas if the ground is soft? Would you be thinking potentially Galmoy hurdle at Gorn? And then back to Navan. And do you roll the dice then? I mean, if he picks up a couple of grade 1s on the way, do you roll the dice for something like a Stayers hurdle? Definitely through the winter. The Devils coachman, beautiful horse. Cannot wait to see him. Stepped up and tripped the 3 mile this season. So he'll be the one I'll be following in the staying division. And let's pray for loads of rain through the winter when he's running. I think he's genuine star material. I was actually at Naas today. He won his bumper. There was a good bit of chat around for him. Obviously, he's progressed. Did not work out. He jumped like a fridge over fences, Mr. Groome. So I would imagine they'll stay hurdling with him. And a real star, has real star potential. Yeah, so that's my 2. I'll fire one more into the mix for Grade 1, with Grade 1 potential, and that is Scarlet and Dove, Ronan. Just Scarlet and Dove.
Scarlet and Dove.
And Scarlet and Dove. I think these cherry impressions need to stop. Third in last season's Mayor's Chase. The key to this girl, I mean, she's a massive filly by Jeremy. She's an 8-year-old. I don't think we've seen the best of her yet. The key to her, I think she has to go left-handed. She's been running a lot going right-handed. I mean, she won at Punchestown, but I think we're going to really see her at her best. I think Connections would have learned a lot about Scarlet and Dove last season. She's won on soft, she's won on deep, she's won on good ground. She's quite versatile. She made mistakes at a key time, I think, in that Mayor's Chase in Cheltenham. And we've seen it with Ellie May in the past. She gets beaten in the Mayor's Chase and goes back the following season. I think she's a real lively player. And in terms of those Ante-Post markets, we'll be delving in Mr. Ronan Groome on the 31st of October, but she's certainly on the radar. I think Scarlet and Dove, she's really going to improve this season. Another year older, another year stronger. And 12-1, I think there is available for the Mayor's Chase. She certainly is a player. Because obviously Allegory Devassi, she's all the rage. She's going chase. We haven't seen her over a fence yet. This girl is battle hardened, and I think she'll improve. So that's my last of those Grade 1 stars to keep an eye out for. We must mention as well the king of the team, an Ergemin, but sure everyone knows about him at this stage. So we'll keep the show ticking on. Young prospects, Mr. Groome. You have another 3, I believe, to fire into the mix here.
Yeah, I got Barry the Butcher. Not the name of a new 10-part Netflix series about some sort of serial killer in America, but Henry the Bromhead, very not progressive, but I'll say that again. But a very promising 5-year-old, I believe, who runs in the colours of Sean and Bernardine Mulrine. Look, a lot of people know about this horse already. He won a very high-profile point-to-point last season. He beat a horse called Crow Park, subsequently won his point-to-point next time out, bought by Gordon Elliott for £400,000. The horse in third there was also bought and won next time out. And the horse that fell at the last, Look to the West, I believe was called, also won his next point-to-point and was bought for a nice price. So, look, I'm just wondering, Barry the Butcher was bought, privately. I'm just wondering if he went to auction, what sort of price he would have would have caught in the auction, because when you take those prices into account, and he was a 10-length winner on the day, he could be anything really this season. He'll be highly hyped up wherever he runs. I'm not sure he's going to run in bumpers, or is he going to begin over hurdles. I hope, as I've said before, that they go straight over hurdles, don't mess around in bumpers, and get this horse rolling and get the prime of his life get him started this season over hurdles, so he's ready to roll next season, possibly in open company then over hurdles, or going novice chasing or whatever. So look out for Barry the Butcher every runs. I'm sure he's going to have a lot of chat about him.
Yeah, super. And your second?
Yeah, I go with American Mike. Not a very original one, but I could just see this fella running up a real string of wins this season. Like, yeah, look, all the talk is Facile Vega, and he will be the standard probably for novice hurdlers this season. But American Mike had a long old season last year. He started off at Down Royal quite early, and was kept back for Cheltenham then. It was a bug, the champion bumper. They nearly called it off. I was on the train back to Birmingham, getting out of Cheltenham, soaking wet, and there was puddles everywhere. I was watching on the phone. Absolute disaster, yeah. So look, American Mike, I think he's still as promising as he was going into that race, and wouldn't hugely surprise me if he did meet Facile Vega, that he gave him a more of a race this time, or got closer to him. I could see him going for the...
How original. American Mike. on a 10 to follow. Right, I'm just going to cut you there. Everyone, no, I'm joking. I'm going to throw one into the mix that's not everyone might have heard about, Mr. Groome, but a similar sort of a profile to bring on the night. Came from France, 1 win on the flats over a mile and 3 furlongs at Crayon, and was listed in stable tours last season for Willie Mullins. Has been bought by the Donnellys for 230,000, but I watched back his run in France, and this lad might have a plenty of ability. The name is Parmenion, so put that in your lists. Certainly in the trackers for the season. You'd imagine you'd see him in novice hurdles this season, and comes from similar sort of a profile to on breeding. He's by Soldier Hollow, so Arctic Fire, Saldier have done well for Willie Mullins over hurdles out of Soldier Hollow. It is a 4-year-old. He is a 4-year-old. I think he's plenty of class. I love the turn of foot he showed, Mr. Groome, on his start. The form has worked out well. We've had plenty of winners in behind. The third, I think, went to Gordon Elliott. But that I'm not sure he might be the one in the field that actually didn't win a race. But Parmenion, looking forward to seeing him in novice hurdles. And you look at Supreme Novice Hurdle. We like to dream at this time of the year, and I think the 50's out there about Parmenion. So for the Donnellys, and we see Stateman bring on the night. Nice novices last season. Stateman obviously winning the county hurdle. So whether they campaign him down the Grade 1 routes, or whether he wins a novice hurdle and maybe the county hurdle is looked at, but Parmenion, cannot wait to see him. Yeah, so we'll go from Ireland to the UK, and the second of the novice hurdlers to follow from my good self runner group is We've All Been Caught, like yourself plenty of times, I'm sure. But this is a massive horse, bought to be a Gold Cup horse by the Nigel Twiston Davis team after winning a point-to-point. Sold for 210,000. So came with a big reputation from the point field. Son of Getaway, this fella's absolutely massive. You want to see the logos on him. Won a bumper at Newbury back in March on its sole start, made a really good impression. Big galloping horse, big, galloping straight like Newbury did suit it. The form has worked out well. I know the second is well regarded collector's item by the John O'Neill team. That has since come out and won at Chepstow a couple of weeks ago over hurdles. So really looking forward to this fella. The Twiston Davis team, they do like to target those Ballymore trials at Cheltenham on the build-up. So trials weekend in January is always one that they like to target. But potentially the Challow hurdle, I think this fella will be winning over hurdles certainly, but one for the future for sure. We've All Been Caught. Whether it's Cheltenham Festival bound or not, I probably doubt it. Excuse the cliche, Ronan, but he's a chaser in the making. Gorgeous horse. We've All Been Caught. And the last one I'm going to fire into the mix is Gavin Cromwell's Pat Doro. It won the concluding bumper at the Punchestown Festival. A really nice winner. Went off 14-1 on the day. There was, I think Gavin said in the aftermath of the victory that he'd been showing good signs at home. Derek O'Connor rode him on the occasion. He was very, very keen there. He was handy right throughout, but I thought it was a really taken performance. And there was some well-touted horses in there. You mentioned the Mulryans. They had a Built by Ballymore in there. Halibut's Emmett Mullins. This fella was just doing what he wanted at the line. Ears pricked, went to the line, won by 2 or 3 lengths at Punchestown. But I think he could be a real nice sort over hurdles. Plenty of pace and one to watch. I think Gavin said, the way he won, the way he did it from the hard, we picked it up almost, 2 miles or almost a mile and a half out after being keen early on. And for him to go and win like he did, I think it is a sign of a good one. That was the comments of Gavin Cromwell in the aftermath. So over hurdles in Ireland, I think this fella could make up into a graded novice this season for Gavin Cromwell. And I'll be all eyes on this 5-year-old sort of coastal Pat Doro. Mr. Groome, we're on now to the next section, which is Novice Chasers. Now, I just have one in this section, but I think you like some Novice Chasers this season.
Yeah, another Nigel Twiston Davis horse, a horse called Beauport. The season before last, he won the big novice handicap, hurdle there at Sandown. I think that's a race that's always worth looking at. A lot of winners coming out of it. The last 2 winners before him were McFabulous and Third Wind. we've obviously gone on to take good rank over hurdles. As did Beauport last season. I think he had a really good season. I think he could have won a couple of times, could have landed a few big pots, and just ran into horses and good horses, and races just didn't work out for him, or the ball didn't bounce his way. Specifically at Newbury, he was second to Dashel Drasher there, who was probably off a nice mark over hurdles and got a nice head start as well, and he nearly chased him down. Then finished second to Greenbook in a good handicap hurdle at Sandown. I was a big fan of Greenbook there, and he's probably well handicapped over hurdles as well on his flat form. He got his win then at Uttoxeter. He beat a horse called Boot Hill. The pair of them came miles clear, and maybe he was a bit over the top by the time Aintree came around. He was fourth there to Party Business. Still ran well, but I think over fences this season is where you're going to see this horse progress nicely. He's a nice little undergrad now. He had the 9 starts over hurdles. He's big shape of a horse. Looks like he'd take to fencing quite well. And as I said, Nigel Twiston-Davies, like, you'll be looking at races at Cheltenham perhaps for him, maybe over 3 miles, that sort of thing, and maybe he can develop into a Brown Advisory horse. So looking forward to seeing what he does this season. Beauport.
Yeah, so 2 into the mix from the Nigel Twiston-Davies yard. My novice chaser to follow, my one novice chaser to follow this season, Mr. Groome, is the well-touted Mighty Potter. We put him up as a herder to follow last season, and for him to go win twice in Grade 1 company over hurdles, the size of this horse, I mean, it absolutely no right to win 2 Grade 1s over hurdles. And his best performance probably did come at the Punchestown Festival. Others were over the top, I'm sure, but that was a fair performance. Now, this fella, genuine star material, heading novice chasing. He's only had 6 career starts. Started off his career with a bumper win at Punchestown, won twice at Punchestown. But I think it speaks absolute volumes, the fact that he did get the job done twice in grade company over hurdles. Massive specimen. And Turner's winner 2023, Gold Cup winner 2024. You've heard it first. I'm sure lots more have said the same, but I do believe this horse is a real prospect. And he's the one horse I cannot wait to see over a fence this season. That is Mighty Potter. Have you another chaser?
I'll 2 more. Yeah, look, you'll probably call them obvious again, but I do think they're worth putting up for different reasons. Hillcrest is the horse I love. As again, people will probably, if you're watching these series last season, the road to Cheltenham, I was all over him for different times. Forgive him his run at Cheltenham. I just think the way the season worked out for him, he got that unlucky unseat at Cheltenham at the January meeting there, and things just they had to rush to get him a run, and he ran at Haydock. Like, he did a savage time there. He was 8 seconds quicker than Holstone later on in the card. And I just think that on heavy ground at Haydock probably knocked the stuffing out of him a bit. He ran no sort of race at Cheltenham then. But this horse it's all about fencing for him. He's huge. He's already got Cheltenham form to his name because he won there on New Year's Day. Beat a nice Nicky Henderson horse there in a grade 2. I think 2.5 miles, 3 miles be absolutely fine. And another one, I think he'll end up in the Brown Advisory, and he can win a couple of Cheltenham along the way. The other one I want to put up, like, he's very obvious, but I actually strangely think he's a bit underrated in a way, is John Bon. Look, everyone's talking about Constitution Hill, right? Like, what price would he be against Honeysuckle if they ran tomorrow? And people are having Constitution Hill odds on as well, which is an interesting enough conversation. It's right. But John Bon, if you go back and watch the Supreme, and you're talking about Mighty Potter there, he was out the back of the Supreme because they ran so fast. John Bon was partly responsible for that. He ran up alongside Dysart Dynamo, tried to go with him and push the pace as quick as he could. And I thought he was probably just getting the better at Dysart Dynamo there when he came down. And look, Constitution Hill picked him off easily then because he sat in behind that raging hot pace. And yeah, look, he was brilliant on the day. But I think it was a huge run by John Bon. And look, he went on and won the entry there. He beat El Fabiola, who was all out to do so. And he's kind of getting knocked a bit for that form. But look, John Bon is he's obviously the hypey enough as the full brother Duvan, cost a lot of money. But like, he basically ran as well probably as Duvan did in the spring, maybe a couple of pounds below that. And you know, we see what Duvan did over fences. So look, all John Bon has to do really is go and win a decent 2 mile chase in England. He's going to be a short price for the Arkle in my book. And look, then you're looking at whatever Willie brings over, or Gordon, or whatever comes out of Ireland. But John Bon, I can see him going off a short price for the Arkle. So I just thought it was interesting, and people looking at the prices of Constitution Hill against Honeysuckle. Well, you can get about 4 or 5 to 1 jump on for the Arkle at the moment. I don't think that's the worst price at this stage of the season.
Well, you put up a fair few duds now on the road to Cheltenham Challenge last season, Ronan Groome, but one that you did mention there, Hillcrest. I was fairly envious the time you got him into the team sheet. I think he could be a fair sort. He went off a fair short price as well for the Albert Barter. Was it 5 to 2 on the day?
He was quite short, as well backed.
Yeah.
It could have been 2 to 1, yeah.
Right, next section, we'll move on swiftly. This is this Fire Hose episode 20 jumpers to follow. You're very welcome if you are just joining us. And the next horse we're going to put up, or the next horse that I'm going to put up in this episode, is a handicapper to follow, and it's Shake 'Em Up Harry, owned by Harry Redknapp for Ben Pauling. And we haven't seen the best of this fella now over fences, Mr. Groome. Shake 'Em Up Harry, owned by Redknapp, quite lightly raced. I said 15 career starts today, but just 5 of those over fences. He was campaigned over 2 miles last season. This fella has a bit of a knee action as well. Soft ground, 2.5 miles. When he steps up and trip, he could make a mockery of his handicap mark. Shake 'Em Up Harry. Potentially the November meeting at Cheltenham over 2.5 miles. That big handicap certainly could be on the radar. He's won at Haydock, back down to a mark of 134. When he won, he went up to 139, back down to 134. Really eye-catching effort at Aintree over 2 miles. The winner was quite good. Came miles cleared the field, but this fella stayed on and pipped third place. Went straight into the tracker. Soft ground. That was on ground he didn't want. Soft ground, 2.5 miles. Shake 'Em Up Harry will be winning this season for sure. That's the first of the handicappers that I'm going to throw into the mix. The second one is Velvet Elvis, Mr. Groome. I know we both like this one heading into the Irish Grand National. He won that novice handicap at Navan before going to the National. Came with a big reputation after winning a point. Was bought by John McConnell. In training with Tom Gibney, very lightly raced, made an absolute total mockery of a mark of 133 at the in Navan on deep ground. This fella is another one that wants, we'll be just praying for rain all winter. These are proper winter horses. Velvet Elvis, soft ground. Do you be thinking the Tri-Town chase? He could be the winner in waiting. Still one handicapped. He's only a 6-year-old. He was a May foal as well, so could progress in the second half of the season. You'd be thinking maybe Tri-Town Chase, Ty Estes, those big pots in Ireland on deep ground, staying trips. Velvet Elvis for myself. And the last one I'll throw in from a handicap perspective. He's actually a novice until November. Plenty of French recruits from Willie Mullins, but the one I'm putting in with a view to handicaps in the spring, I think he'll win a novice race or 2 potentially, probably be out early. He's by Triple Threat, 4-year-old. The horse is called Mr. Policeman. Mr. Groome will be calling the police if this one lands a big handicap at the Cheltenham Festival. Mr. Policeman, Rich Ritchie, French winner over hurdles. So we've already seen him over hurdles. Watch back his run over 2 miles and 1. He finished 5th on debut at Fontainebleau. The winner on that occasion went to Paul Nichols, disappointed actually at the weekend. But I just love the way this lad progressed from first to second start. His jumping, he was ridden more forward on the second start over hurdles. Love the way he jumped. Love the way he attacked his hurdles. That was the one thing that caught my eye. And could be dual purpose in time, but certainly for those spring handicaps, probably take a novice race or 2 along the way. Mr. Policeman, like what I saw in his runs in France. Give us a handicapper, Mr. Groome.
I've got 2. Start off with Galliard de Minil, who it was 5 starts last season, finished 3rd on all 5 starts. I followed him. I thought he could take top rank on the Novice Chasers. He did actually eventually do that. He was 3rd in the Brown Advisory, ran really well there when held up, and then he went off favourite for Irish Grand National and ran quite well to finish 3rd again. Obviously that he's finished 3rd, he hasn't won a race. He's qualifies as a novice, so he could have went into the novice chase section either. But I think he will continue to run in those big staying chases this season. Races like the Ty Estes, possibly the Tri-Town, the Paddy Power Chase are all there for him, and they don't have to worry about conserving a mark for anything because the National Hunt Chase is probably where he's going to end up. and he'd be a nice kind of type for that as well. So yeah, Galliard and O'Neill, I'd be disappointed if he couldn't win a big staying handicap chase this season on his way to possibly taking in the national hunt chase as well. The other one is a kind of forgotten horse in many ways. He hasn't run in a long time. Copperless for Ollie Murphy. I know the hype about this horse in Ollie Murphy's is quite high. They like him a lot. He was last seen winning the Swinton Hurdle at Haydock. Always a good race. He beat Cormier there, a race that's worked out quite well. And he has a rating of 141. And Ollie Murphy, he's a 7-year-old. He's only had 5 starts over hurdles, won 3 of them. Look, he's had a setback, missed all of last season. But Ollie Murphy said he's back now. I was listening to him on another podcast, said he's back now and training very well. And they're thinking about running him in the fighting 5th or at least getting him into grade 1 level. Well, if that's the case, he's a 7-year-old here off a mark of 141. There's definitely a handicap hurdle to be won with him along the way if they can get him there fit. The horse goes reasonably well fresh as well. So look out for Copperless. I think he could be an Ollie Murphy special, one of the big handicap hurdles along the way this winter.
I'm going to throw a bonus ball. I'm going to throw in the bonus ball into the mix, Mr. Groome. We've given the 20. We're not going to recap on them all. You have to go back and listen again if you want to load the tracker. But the bonus ball from myself, another Willie Mullins, another French recruit, Mr. Groome, is 1 from 1 on the flat, and I just love this performance. I love the way this horse shaped. It'd be interesting to see going from France, having one race on the flats. So it would bring on the Knights. Mentioned Parmenion. Willie likes to give these types time. Bought by JP McManus for a nice figure. The horse's name is Tekau. And, JP obviously has a decent record in the Triumph. Defi de Sol. Ivanovic, Gorbatov won it in the past. To put up the Triumph Hurdle winner on the 20 jumpers to follow now could be a big ask. But Tekau, I just watched back his run in France. Same connections as Parmenion, trained by Edouard Montfort. Is the same trainer. So 2 coming from Edouard Montfort. I love the way he shaped. I love his attitude. And the further the went, the better he got. But it was his head carriage. I mean, for me, when I watch back a race, the visual eye, if they have a bad head carriage on a groom, it's a straight negative tick for me. And the one horse I did put up here with a bad head carriage is the Devil's Coachman. But I think he could be very talented. Without going overboard here, Tekau, I loved what I saw in his Soul Flat run over France. He was from the front, did it the hard way, but I think he'd loads more left in the tank. And if he jumps a hurdle, obviously, it could be next season before we see him. But Tekau is the bonus ball from my good self. What about you? Any bonuses?
I have no bonuses. No. I've done my 10 there now, and it was hard enough to find the hand up. So we'll let the season develop and see what happens. See what runs out at Cheltenham this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, look, just let's do a bit of housekeeping before we wrap up.
Basil, I will actually throw one up because I was talking to Norman Lee, Galway trainer there, and he has one running that might be useful to people to look at it now, as in it's running on Friday. Mare there called She Is Electric. She won a listed race down in Gorham Park, and they're going to roll the dice with her, run her over at Cheltenham over 2.5 miles and see if she can be good enough to run in a Mare's Novice Hurdle there later in the season. So she's already won a listed race. Nice story. Normally he's a good guy, good trainer, having his best ever season. He's had 8 winners already. So look out for She Is Electric. Going to run in the 2.5 mile Novice Hurdle at Cheltenham on Friday.
Well, you're not allowed to put up the same equal amount as me on this show, so I'm going to throw up another one. One that I hadn't planned on throwing up, but this fella made a good impression on debut. You might remember the horse of Chris Gordon's last season, Auchenrisk. Progressed nicely. He's gone novice chasing since. A horse that won the same race as Auchenrisk at Stratford, would you believe it, on decent ground in the exact same bumper. The horse this season is same connections. KF Legend for Chris Gordon was a really nice performance. Reckon he'll be winning over hurdles. Bit of housekeeping before we wrap up, Mr. Group. This has been an absolute pleasure. We've given a fire hose to Champ.ie listeners in terms of horses to follow for the national hunt season. But the official campaign, the official jumps campaign the Champ.ie Jumps campaign, the official start date, Thursday, the 3rd of November. We'll be back with the first episode of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge on the 31st of October, and we will be previewing both Cheltenham and we'll be previewing Cheltenham for the showcase meeting on Thursday night. That will be live for Champ.ie listeners. And also, Mr. Groome, we will be back to look at the Charity Hall Chase, which is the following weekend at Wetherby. But the official Jumps campaign, 45 shows coming your way this season from Friday, the 3rd of November. Cannot wait. And we'll have bonus shows as well, the likes of the Cheltenham preview nights and many, many more episodes coming your way for the Champ.ie listeners. So, Ronan Groome, just recap by telling the big question on above my head. What is your jump season dark horse to follow? Explain to listeners the rules and regulations when you're
just give us your dark horse for the season. Fairly simple. Keep it tight, maybe under 100 words or a couple of sentences, and we'll pick out the best one, and €20 will be coming your way if you can nail your dark horse to follow or make a significantly good case. We will endeavour to send €20 your way.
You better hope the winner's not in the UK. You might have to send more. It's been a pleasure, Mr. Groome.
God bless.
God bless. Been a good episode. Thanks, Mr. Groome. See you soon.
Inside the final 150 yards, this is a special year, and it's a Athens full of grace. And it's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by